Okay, so I attempted to do this video a couple of times today, and especially given the subject matter went far too long, so I deleted the video, so I'm going to try again. And I think I'll put my main point in this video up as the title, so even if you don't watch it, you get the point. Which I'll make now, a few seconds into the video. Instead of punching a Nazi, go hug a Muslim. That's basically my point. I will go into explanation, but if you don't like long videos, there's your point. Instead of punching a Nazi, go hug a Muslim. So obviously I'm talking about the terrorist attack in Christchurch, where I'm from. I wasn't born there, but I've spent most of my life there, and I'll be going back in a few days. That's going to be my main base of operations and where I live, and it has been for a while. It's obviously really upsetting, terrible thing that's happened, huge loss of life, and just absolutely disgusting behavior by one cowardly person. And I guess the sort of wider point that I want to make is that because we're humans and we're limited to our little tribal monkey brains and stuff, it's very easy when these sorts of things to happen to get all tribal about it. Even the lovely speech that our Prime Minister gave contains some sort of tribal thought in a nice way, but still does, when she said, "They are not us," And I agree with that in terms of the sentiment. The New Zealand I grew up in has problems with racism, as all countries and places do. In some ways we do it a lot better, or don't have as much of it, or as overtly as some of the rest of the world. But particularly Christchurch, where I'm from, is somewhat known for white racism, or racism by white supremacism, if you will. It's something that's been discussed a lot recently for obvious reasons. The person who did this horrible thing was a white supremacist, and used their ideology, I'm told, in the manifesto they wrote. I'm not going to bother reading it. I'm very familiar with the ideology. I spent a very short period of time when I was young, and I got kicked out of home. I had nowhere to go. I was your classic little disenfranchised little white guy, and I went to stay with a girl who was the only person I knew I could go stay with, and her boyfriend was a Fourth Reich skinhead. So I was forcibly initiated into their movement. I'm very familiar with the politics. And basically the second that you go with your knee-jerk reaction to what this piece of shit has done, and go, I want to beat up on skinheads, and we're going to make their movement illegal, and we want to do all this other kind of thing, as right thinking in a sense is the way that is, it's the worst thing possible. Because it just feeds into their ideology. For those of you not familiar, the basics of it are white supremacist people, whether they're skinheads or white pride people or whatever else, or extreme right, whatever you want to call them, are very anti-immigration and stuff like that, not just because they're plain racist, although they generally are. Some of them are less so. Some of them aren't actually racist, they're just like, nah, immigration, blah, 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 have problems with it. They feel that their culture and that their race is under attack and is being marginalized and stuff, which is statistically foolish. Most of the people that these countries, most of the countries that have these movements in them have a dominant white majority. So statistically dumb. The thing is, when you attack these people, like the tendency now, if you hear anyone say anything remotely racist in the next wee while in Christchurch, you're really going to want to rip their head off, because they're just like that bastard who killed all those people. And, maybe they are. But the thing is, when you go and attack them, you just feed into their ideology. You just give them one more reason to feel like they're under attack, and therefore their violent viewpoints and their nastiness is justified. So don't do it. The correct response, because you do want to respond and not just do nothing, is to exercise love. And that's going to be really, really hard to go up and hug a Nazi and go, hey man, really why you've got all these viewpoints is because you're afraid, and maybe we can discuss that and make you less afraid, and rah, rah, rah. Exercising that patience is incredibly difficult, but it was done for me. I didn't drop rapidly the nasty viewpoints that I was being educated into because someone came up and beat me up about it. The people who were educating me into those points were doing all the beatings. I was pissed on, set on fire, drowned, and a number of other nasty things, because that allowed them to, as they called it, harden me up, but isolate me from other people and things like that. and then love bomb me afterwards, quizzically enough, in a way that gave me a sense of unity and community that I wasn't otherwise experiencing anywhere else at the time. And that's what you do to get people away from these sorts of extremist viewpoints, because this time it was a white supremacist. Some other times it's an Islamic extremist or a Christian extremist or insert XYZ tribal grouping here, extremist. These are the people who do the killing. Extremism is the problem, not any one group, extremism. And that's what we want to focus on as our main issue while we're working through ways that we might make those elements of our society that are racist less so. And while we're looking on the mechanics of, do we really want to allow semi-automatic weapons in this country, and given the risks they can pose in the hands of the wrong people, is it really necessary for the civilian population to have them at all? And various other nitty-gritty little sub-points. The main one you want to look at is extremism is the problem. How do we address that? Back to my main point, instead of punching a Nazi, go hug a Muslim. What you do with these things is exercise love. Go find, if you're upset about what happened in Christchurch and you're there, I certainly intend to when I get back, donate to the various charities that are outpouring kindness and money to the victims of this horrible terrorist attack. Look at ways in your own life that you can make people from other countries, particularly people who are of other religious or ethnic groups than you, feel more welcome here in our country, and things of that order. Don't give attention to the nasty people, because that's what they want. Don't name them. Don't share their stupid video. Don't share their ridiculous manifesto, or go through it for ages, taking it apart and working on the logic or whatever else and stuff. It's tempting, but that's small thinking. You want to think much larger. Exercise compassion and kindness and patience. Next time you come across a racist person, I've been exercising this for quite a while, and it's effective. When someone says something really objectionable, or they tell a mad off-color joke, no pun intended, or something, instead of just going nuts at them, calling them a racist and a bigot, take a deep breath and ask them some questions on why they think what they think, and try and bend their idea set the other way. I often hear a lot of Islamophobia, and I constantly say to people, simple statistics, there's over 1 billion or around 1 billion Muslims on this planet. If they're all crazy suicide bomber types, we'd all be dead. Extremism is the problem, not Islam. Extreme is the problem, not Zion, not Judaism. Extremism is the problem, not Christianity. And like I say, you can name any of these magical little tribal groups. I'd like to see a world where we just didn't bloody use them. But we do, currently, and it's so easy to just sort of go, not exactly all white people this or anything, but particularly in this situation, anyone who's even remotely right-wing politically at the moment, and for instance is concerned about immigration and how we control that and whatnot, is now going to get screamed at all the time and compared to this madman with a gun. And that's actually going to push them further towards the right and further towards defensive stuff, instead of being open to new ideas and multiculturalism and the good things that can be. So if you want to do something about this stuff, don't go getting aggressive at the people that you see as at fault, because that's just one person for one event this one time. The real issue is extremism, and we solve extremism with compassion, love, and patience. And what we can do right now is focus on the victims of this horrible event, as opposed to the perpetrator, or the factors in society that we think led to that asshole doing what he did. Fuck all that shit, deal with it later. At the moment, look to exercise kindness towards the people most negatively affected by this, to show them that New Zealand is a safe place most of the time, and that they are welcome here, and that we don't, as a nation and as a whole, support this sort of racist ideology that led this crazy man to do what he did. So like I say, I'll end the video with the same saying again. Let's make a meme of that, shall we? Instead of punching a Nazi, go hug a Muslim. Yep.